Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udire Shinuvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Tritayantas Tohi Abhadrani Vidunati Sugritsutam Nashaprayeshu Uteshu Nityam Bhavata Seviya Bhavati Uttam Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, are you all able to hear me?
Yes, Mataji, we are able to hear you. We just lost few devotees, I guess, because there was a power outage over here and I was returning back from the hospital. So I think we can hear you. We cannot see you, but if your internet doesn't support that, that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right. So let's get started, dear devotees, with the verse for today. And before that, we'll try to do the recap as we usually do. The last session, we learned, we understood that this someone who wants to come out, or he wants to get rid of Rajas and Tamas. What is the solution for him? The solution for him is to meditate on the sum total, that is the total material energy, total objects, whatever is there. By doing this, what is going to happen to him? So one has to meditate on the Virat Root. That is what is the point. That's the sum total energy. And by doing this, one will get rid of his competitive nature. So we saw the point that a student who's a topper in the class, when we see him, that his intelligence is related to him only, the intelligence belongs to him only, then there is competitive nature. But then when we see the intelligence he has is due to the energy of the Lord, then we don't see any competitive nature in him, right? So if we understand the total energy of the part of the Supreme Lord, we always try to understand the total thing is the part of the Supreme. So when we understand this total creation, total energy is a part of the Supreme Lord, then what is going to happen? We will understand, yes, he's the one who he's the possessor. We understand that the possessor is the Supreme. Because, see, this total energy is a part of the Supreme Lord. So who's the possessor? The possessor is the Supreme. Then why do we have to unnecessarily compete with him? Right? In this way, so that is why we are meditating on the Virat Root, which is the sum total energy. And by doing this, we are trying to, this yogi is trying to come out of this competitive nature, understanding that this material energy is nothing but part and parcel of the Lord. This total creation, this total energy, it's nothing but a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. He understands that. And through this, what is happening to him? His chitta is getting purified. His heart is getting purified. Then, after that point, what is what is it that this yogi is deriving at? This yogi is now eligible to meditate on what? This yogi is eligible to meditate on the personal form of the Lord. Okay, he starts off with the Virat Root meditation, and then he meditates on he becomes eligible to meditate. So then he he becomes eligible to meditate on the personal form of the Lord. So this is what we saw. And now we have to learn to meditate. How to meditate? We have to meditate on the Virat Root. So what is it said? Where is it said that we should meditate on the Virat Root? It is said in sloka number 24. Stule Bhagavate Rupe. Then we know the three questions that are asked by Parikshit Maharaj. Yata, Yatra, Idrishi. How, where, in what kind of. Meaning, where does one has to meditate? Right? Where does one have to meditate? It's Stule Bhagavate Rupe. In the gross form of the Supreme Lord, one should meditate. That is Virat Root. That means one should meditate on the Virat Root. And he has to see the inclusion of everything. I mean, he has to see everything in the inclusion of Virat Root. The whole material energy, he has to see that in the Virat Root. So now we are going to learn how to do that. How we are going to see everything, the inclusion of Virat Root. How we can do that. You're able to understand. So what we have to meditate on is Virat Root. Because why? This person has Rajas and Tamas in him. So in order to get out of that, he has to meditate on the Virat Root. And by doing that, what is going to happen ultimately to him? He will become eligible. Of course, his chitta is going to be purified, his heart is going to be purified, and that way he becomes eligible to meditate on the personal form of the Lord. This is what this yogi is trying to achieve. But before that, how do we understand that everything is the inclusion of the Virat Root? That is why these few verses that we are going to discuss now is going to help us understand how we can understand that everything is the inclusion of the Virat Root. Now, if you see, there is 14 planetary systems. So there is Patala, the topmost is Satyaloka. Now we have to see where these are located in the Virat Root. That is what is going to be explained, right? So we have sound, we have form, we have smell, we have taste. These are different elements. That means, what is the point? Object of the senses is there, senses is there, and controlling deities of the senses is also there. So we have to see all these three elements as inclusive to Virat Root. So this is what we'll be seeing, dear devotees, in the next set of verses. What are the things we'll be seeing? Object of the senses, okay? The senses, and then the controlling deity of the senses. These are all inclusive to the Virat Root. Okay. So now, Prabhupada's translation for the 26th verse says, persons who have realized it have studied the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal Lord. And the heels and the toes are the Rasatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets. The shanks constitute the Thalatala planets. So that means in which part of the Virat Rupa the 14 planetary systems are located. That we are going to see, right? So Patala is the bottoms of the feet, Rasatala is heels and toes, Mahatala is the ankles, Talatala is the shank. So this is what is the 26th verse of second canto, first chapter. And now 27th verse. The knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the Sutala. The two thighs, the Vitala, and the Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahatala, and the outer space is the depression of his navel. So we see Sutala at the knees, Vitala at the lower part of the two thighs, Atala at the upper part of the two thighs, Mahitala is the earth or the hips, Bhuvarloka is at the navel, Swarga is at the chest, Makarloka is at the neck, Janaloka is at the mouth or the face, Tapoloka is at the forehead, Satyaloka is on the head. So these are the various locations where these different planetary systems are located. And this yogi will be imagining these lokas to be situated at these planets of the Virat Root. So Virat Root is not imaginary. Virat Root is there. But the yogi is meditating like that because he is not actually seeing, right? So now this yogi is not purified completely. He cannot see Virat Root with his bare eyes. So that's why now he is in Dharana. In the Dharana, what is the process? You will be imagining some particular object and meditating on that object. So this is Dharana actually. Now he wants to meditate on the total planetary systems. That's why he is imagining the planets to be located in the different parts of the Virat Root. Okay. So Prabhupada's purport says, outside the bodily existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the manifested cosmic existence has no reality. Everything and anything of the manifested world rests on him as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. But it does not imply that everything and anything is the vision of everything and anything in the vision of a materialist is the Supreme Personality. Now, he's trying to tell us the point that everything rests on him. So, Lord is like a thread. We know that. In the garland, There are various pearls hanging or lying, and everything is resting on him. So you'll be seeing how Virat Roop is manifesting in the same way. Like when the Lord desires to smell, the nose came. When the Lord desires to see, the eyes are manifested. So the Virat Roop manifestation or the creation of the Virat Roop, we will be seeing. Of course, in the second canto, 10th chapter also, we will be seeing. Now, this yogi, whatever object he knows there are 14 planetary systems. He wants to meditate on that. Now he will see they are all located on the Virat Roop. Now he's imagining they are in the different parts because he's not able to see the complete Virat Roop immediately with his bare eyes. That's why he's imagining all these things. Then, again, we need to understand this Virat Roop is a person, right? I mean, in the sense, it's already said in the previous, previous session, I talked about the point that he's lying in the Andakosha, that is 4 billion miles in diameter, and he's lying down there. So this is what he's doing, and this yogi is imagining. Now he wants to meditate on the planetary system, so he's imagining these planetary systems to be in the body of the Virat Roop. Like that, it will be going on a few verses from now. And then, so if you look at the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.3, so Prabhupada's translation says, it is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, but he has nothing to do with created material ingredients. Now, so this loka is created in the form of Virat Roop. This Virat Roop is having the shape of, we saw last class, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So this yogi is imagining that form. If that form is not there, can you imagine that form? We cannot imagine that form, right? Say for example, Akasha Pushpa, sky flower. Will you imagine how it is? Or horns of a rabbit? Will you be able to imagine? If there is no such thing, how can you imagine? We cannot imagine, right? So something doesn't exist. We can't imagine actually. Whatever you are imagining, that which is existing. If you think there is flower in the sky, if you are giving some shape, but whatever shape you are imagining, you are seeing the flower shape in the market and not the flower shape in the sky, right? So if you want to imagine, at least we should have some conception of it. Otherwise, we cannot imagine. The object which is not at all existing, we can't have a conception of that. There is no conception. Say, for example, that there is a flower, there is petals, and the conception should be there because we have seen the object. The object which is not there, how would we be able to imagine? So we have to note that point that this object is there, and hence this yogi is able to imagine. And so we are saying the sky is there, flower is there, and we can imagine the flower in the sky, right? If you are imagining sky flower like that, then that is not a real sky flower you are imagining, but you are imagining the existing sky, the existing flower. So it's not the sky flower, right? It's not existing, but because you have got the concept of sky and flower, you are able to imagine in that way. So if you imagine separately, it's a separate thing only. But we are asking the possibility. My question is the possibility of you being able to imagine an object which does not exist. Is it possible? No, it is not possible. So imagination is based on some previous concept. You should note that point. Okay, you should have heard that. And now, what is the difference between imagining and remembering? Anybody wants to try or make an attempt? Imagining and remembering.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, go ahead.
Imagining is that we are just thinking of something that we have seen, right? And what is the other word you said? Second, please.
Remembering.
Oh, no. Remembering is something that we have already seen. Then we remember. Then it comes to our memory. It's stored in our memory, so we remember it. But imagining is something that we concoct. We don't know. People don't know. So it's only ourselves that we are imagining. Suppose we are two individuals and I'm imagining that, okay, I am flying in the space. So that is my way of thinking, not yours. But if I remember, we can remember the same thing. Maybe we were on a holiday and we remember that. That is there. Hare Krishna.
Correct. So when you already have an experience, you are remembering. That is not imagining. That is remembering. That smriti is there. That's why you are able to remember that. Say, for example, you ate the rasagulla and now you are able to see the rasagulla, and now the taste, you are remembering that taste because you already ate it. You are not imagining that. As Mataji said, imagining means, say, for example, somebody explained the concept of rasagulla. Okay, rasagulla's taste is also like gulab jamun, but something different. Some sweetness is more. It looks white. Like that, a concept is given to you and you start to imagine. But say, for example, the object is not existing at all, then it's not possible to imagine because the concept is not there. Then how you can imagine? So this is the difference between remembering means you have to have previous experience of it. Imagining means some concept is given to you about the object and you start imagining from that point in time. But remembering and imagining are different. And again, the conclusion is if there's no object that is existing, we can't imagine about that object. This is the point. So like this, now this yogi wants to purify the heart. So for that, he has to see everything with connection to the Supreme Lord. As a part of the sum total means Virat Rupa, everything he has to see the connection to the Lord. So for that purpose, he is first imagining. So Pahatala is in the lotus feet of Virat Rupa. Mahatala is somewhere. Like that, he starts to imagining one by one. This yogi is trying to imagine one by one. The conception of, again, Prabhupada says the conception of universal form of the Lord gives a chance to the materialist to think of the Supreme Lord. It's making him think of the Supreme Lord. This is another point. Think about the Supreme Lord. It is told in purport 26. But the materialist must know for certain that his visualization of the world in the spirit of lording over is not God realization. So it means that he must know for certain that the visualization of the world, that means now I am imagining the whole universe. So that means I am the master of this. Can we think like that? Prabhupada says, no, you can't think like that. You should not lord it. So you should not visualize this world in the spirit of lording it over material nature. No, you're not the master. And we understand through this process of Virat Roop meditation that the Supreme Lord is the possessor of the universe. That is what we saw earlier, right? Through this process, the yogi understands what? Yes, he sees everything in connection to the Supreme Lord and understands, yes, this is Supreme Lord is the possessor, and the material energy is nothing but a part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are the conclusions this yogi comes to ultimately. Okay. The materialist view of exploitation of the material resources, Prabhupada's purport says, is occasioned by the illusion of the eternal energy of the Lord. And as such, if anyone wants to realize the supreme truth by conceiving the universal form of the Lord, he says, we must cultivate the service attitude. So Prabhupada is saying, if you want to realize the supreme truth by conceiving the universal form of the Lord, what he must cultivate? He must cultivate service attitude. So Prabhupada is telling us that if you want to realize the Supreme Lord, one has to engage his material energy in the service of the Supreme Lord, and through that process, he is going to realize the Supreme Lord. That is, he also brings up the point to say, unless the service attitude is revived, the concept of Virat realization will have little effect on the seer. Now, very important point here, devotees, Prabhupada is making. Again, this is not coming from any of the acharyas, but Prabhupada is writing this point. He says the Virat realization will have less effect when there is no service attitude. So we noted from previous classes, without bhakti, any process cannot give result. It's obvious. So we have the statement from Bhagavatam to support the point that even Nishkama Karma Yoga, if you don't offer to the Supreme Lord, it's not going to work. Nishkama Karma, any yoga, it will not work without Supreme Lord's, without the presence of Bhakti. Something has to be there. Even if Bhakti is Gunibhuta, meaning if Bhakti is secondary and the other process is primary, even then Bhakti has to be there. Okay, we talked about Mishra Bhakti also, where Bhakti is primary and the other processes, whatever we are doing, yoga or anything. I mean, Jnana, Yoga, Nishkam Karma, they could be secondary as well. We saw about the Mishra Yoga in the previous classes. But either ways, even if it is Gunibhuta, meaning Bhakti is secondary, but Bhakti has to be there for that process to work. Otherwise, no results will be yielded. Similarly, we understand even the Ashtanga yogis, they do dharana, dhyana and samadhi. They should meditate on the object they select. They need to select some object and go through that meditation of that object and reach to the stage of samadhi. So now the point is, even they have to select the form of the Lord. Otherwise, they will not get any perfection. They have to meditate on the object, and that object has to be the form of the Lord. It could be Virat Roop, it could be Garbhodaksha Vishnu when he reaches the perfection by meditating on the Virat Roop. Either ways, he has to meditate. The point I'm trying to tell that Prabhupada is telling is, either ways, the object of meditation has to be the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, it is not going to give any results to the yogi. Otherwise, moksha will not come. This is Bhakti Mishra Yoga. There, Bhakti is second. I mean, Bhakti is primary. Sorry, not Bhakti is primary. Yoga is primary and Bhakti is secondary. Bhakti Mishra Yoga. Right? So anyways, Prabhupada purport also talks about the point of the transcendental Lord in any conception of this form is never a part of the material creation. He keeps his identity as the Supreme Spirit in all circumstances and is never affected by the three material qualities. For everything material is contaminated. The Lord always exists by his internal energy. The universe is divided into 14 planetary systems, Bhur, Bhuva, Swar, Mahar, Jana, Tapas and Satya are the upper planetary systems. And there are 7 lower planetary systems called Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala and Patala, gradually one below the other. In this verse, the description begins from the bottom because it is in line with the devotion that the Lord's bodily description should begin from his feet. So Prabhupada brings another important point. What is he saying? When you go to the temple, when you are getting the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what you are supposed to see first? You are supposed to see his feet first and not the face. But immediately, as soon as we enter the temple, we are attracted seeing Lord's face, his beautiful smile and all that. But he says we have to, go and seek, because that is the place of surrender. That is where I want to surrender myself to your lotus feet. I just want to, everybody is asking, Lord, let me just become the dust of your lotus feet. Let me just, the service attitude a devotee wants. So that's why Prabhupada is reinstating the statement to say you have to see the feet first and then comes the face. So you have to start your meditation. What you are seeing from the lotus feet, you start meditating the lotus feet of the Lord, one has to get his darshan, he says. And then he brings up the point to say, Sukadev Goswami is a recognized devotee of the Lord and he is exactly correct in the description. That's what he says. Now we move on to the 27th verse. The 27th verse is just plain straightforward translation to say, the knees of the supreme form, knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the 2 thighs are the Vitala and Atala planetary system. The hips is Mahitala, and outer space is the depression of his navel. This is what is explained in 27th verse. And 28th verse. 28th verse talks about the point that the chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. His neck is Mahar planets, his mouth is Janas, his forehead is the Tapas, and the topmost is Satyaloka, is the head. It is the head of one who has 1,000 heads. We saw about that, right? How many heads are there for the Virat? Sahasra Shisha. Why? Since Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is also having thousands of heads, that is why Virat Rupa is a prototype of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. You're able to understand. That's why he's also having thousands of heads. That's why the yoga, that's what the yogi has to imagine. There is Satyaloka there is Tapas, Janaloka here, Maharloka here. He has to imagine all of that. Now, Prabhupada talks about the point that the effulgent luminary planets like the sun and the moon are situated almost in the mid place of the universe. And the luminary planets are also called heavenly planets of the universal directorate. Demigods are the Mahar, Janas, and Tapas planetary systems, and Satyaloka, where the chief directors of the modes of material nature reside, namely Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Vishnu is known as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and he acts as a super soul in every living being. There are innumerable universes floating in the causal ocean, and each of them is the representation of the Virat form of the Lord. Like that he is mentioning. So Prabhupada is saying that every Brahmanda, one Virat Rup will be there. There will be Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva also. Like that, in the causal ocean, millions of Brahmanda are floating. Right? And that is why millions of Brahma, millions of Shiva, and millions of Vishnus are there. So like that he's mentioning, and we all know about 3/4 spiritual creation and 1/4 is a material creation. And so the point is, Prabhupada is stressing this aspect of helping us understand the planetary systems, where they are located, and how this yogi is imagining. And then, in the 12th canto, purport, Prabhupada will also talk about the point, by following Grahastha rules, one will go to Makarloka, it seems. If you're strictly following the Grahastha rules, okay, whatever is recommended by the Manusmriti with regards to Grahastha rules, if you follow that correctly, where you are going to go? Makarloka. If you're following strictly the Brahmachari life, where he will be going? He will be going to Janaloka. By following the Vanaprastha, one will go to Tapoloka. And then by following the sannyasi life, he will be able to obviously go to Satyaloka. This is mentioned in the 12th canto. Again, if Varnashrama is strictly followed by an individual for 100 lifetimes or something, if he reaches perfection, then he will go to Satyaloka also. That's also mentioned in Prabhupada's purport. But the point is, if you're following certain Grahastha rules, you're going to Maharloka. If you're following the Brahmachari rules and reach perfection, then you're going to go to Janaloka. This will be seen in the 12th canto. Then, now this is what is the 27th verse. Okay, so now we will go on to the 28th verse. 28th verse. So let's see the 28th verse for Prabhupada's, and then we will understand. Sorry, dear devotees, my page got lost. 1 minute, let me go to the 28th verse. 128. So it is mentioned in Srila Prabhupada's purport that the chest of the original personality of the gigantic form, okay, this we saw already, 28th we saw, okay. 29th. His arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The 10 directional sides are his ears. The physical sound is his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the 2 Ashwini Kumaras, and the material fragrance is the sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing. His mouth is the blazing fire. So the conception of Virat Roop, or the gigantic form of the Supreme Lord, is said to include all the dominating demigods as well as the dominated living beings. Even the minutest part of the living being is controlled by the empowered agency of the Lord. Since the demigods are included in the gigantic form of the Lord, the worship of the Lord, whether in the gigantic material conception or in his eternal transcendental form as Lord Krishna, he appeases the demigods and the other parts and parcels as much as watering the root of a tree distributes the energy to the tree's other plants. Consequently, for a materialist who worship the universal gigantic form of the Lord, leads one to the right path. one need not risk being misled by approaching many demigods for the fulfillment of different desires. The real entity is the Supreme Lord himself, and all others are imaginary, for everything is included in him. So Prabhupada reinstates the point to say that so the his arms, the Virat Room's arms are the demigods headed by Indra. Then his ears are the 10 directional sides, like that. Sorry. So again, the point is demigods are there, but who's giving, say for example, somebody prays the demigod. Is the demigod able to give a benediction to that person, whoever is praying to him independently? No. It's through the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord only gives the demigod, okay, no problem, like that. And then the demigod fulfills that wish of a particular person. So we should not understand that Prabhupada is stating here that, obviously the Supreme Lord is the root, and if you're going to worship the root, all other parts or branches are taken care of because you are watering the root, like that. So this is the point that is being talked about in the 29th verse, right? Yeah, it's the 29th verse. So now Prabhupada mentions the Virat Roop's arms are what? Demigods headed by Indra. And Virat Roop's ears are what? 10 directions, which are the presiding deities for hearing. And then the 10 directions are the Adhishrati Devatas, or of hearing of individual. For every sense, it is mentioned that there is Adhishrati Devata. The presiding deities are there. So the presiding deities are responsible for a particular sense organ to work or function. So if that presiding deity is not going to give control or give permission for you to see, then we will not be able to see also. Hearing, we can't hear if the presiding deity says, no, this person can't hear, then it will be stopped. So the presiding deities control the sense organ that we have. And again, Srila Prabhupada, not Srila Prabhupada, but the point here is that we are seeing that there is presiding deities that are controlling, that are there seen in the Virat Roop's form. For example, the arms, who's there? Demigod Indra. And then Virat Roop's ear, who's there? The 10 directions, like that. Okay, dear devotees, that's the point I want to mention. And then what else? So that is verse number 28. And then so there is also, see, if you go to the 10th chapter of second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadev Goswami says, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 10 divisions of statements regarding the following, that is the creation of the universe, sub-creation of the planetary systems, protection of the Lord, the creative impetus, the change of the manus. It's a very important verse. Atra sargo visargascha sthanam poshanam utayha. That's a very important verse. So the Bhagavatam has 10 divisions. And what are they? First is creation, sub-creation, protection, creative impetus, change of manus, the signs of God, returning home, back to Godhead, liberation, and the summum bonum. So these 10 topics are detailing about Adhyatma, Adhidevam, and Adhibhutam. Okay, and so we will be seeing the Jivatma plus the ownership of the senses, ownership on the senses, that is the Adhyatma Purusha. And it is facilitated by Adhibhutam, we will see. And the controller of the senses, Adhidevam, we will see. Again, I'm just giving a very big, we will see this in detail in the 10th chapter of second chapter. So I don't want to confuse you, but the point is there is Adhyatma, Adhidevam, and Adhibhutam, which we'll be talking about in the 10th chapter, which will help us to understand when the body is created, they will be differentiated because the action is different. Like that, we'll be studying in depth as to what the functionality of each is. And it's not the individual who is functioning, but it is these components that work together to make that individual function. And Jivatma is nothing but the soul. So which is what will be understood in the 10th chapter. Okay. For now, you understand obviously we are not the body, we are the soul, and whenever an action is performed, who performs that action is something that we'll be seeing in detail in 10th chapter. Okay, dear devotees. I just don't want to go in that direction. Okay. Now, the next verse talks about the point that the sphere of the outer space constitutes his eye pits. The eyeball is the sun as the power of seeing. His eyelids are both day and night, and in the movements of his eyebrows, Brahma and similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water. Varuna and juice are the essence of everything, is his tongue. Like that. So his eyelids is said day and night. The movements of eyebrows is the abode of Brahma. The palate is nothing but Varuna. The tongue and taste and everything, that's what Varuna, it is mentioned. So eye pits is a blazing fire. So each description of the Virat is again spoken in the 30th verse. And then they say the Vedic hymns are the cerebral passage of the Lord. Okay, the cerebral passage of the Virat root. So Yamaraj should be imagined. I mean, Yamaraj, you should imagine him as the teeth of Virat root. And like that, we are supposed to imagine the art of affection is the set of his teeth, and the most alluring illusionary energy is his smile. This great ocean of material creation is but casting of his glance over us. Again, it's very hard for us to imagine, but we have to imagine. This is what the yogi imagines. Okay, you don't have to understand. I mean, the thing is, we understand the main important point that why this yogi is doing this in order to purify his chitta. Why he has to purify his chitta? Because he has rajo and tamo impressions, and for that he has to identify each and every part of the Virat root to be connected to the Lord. And with the service attitude, he has to look at it. Then only he will get the benefit of purification of his Swarup, Chitta. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. So now he understands everything is nothing but Supreme Lord. We have this ears, nice. He imagines, right? He imagines this to be that, this to be that. By this process, he is able to understand everything connection to the Supreme Lord. Nothing is independent of the Supreme Lord. This material energy is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he understands. And when he understands this, then he goes and does perfection in meditating on the Garbhodakshay form. Till then, since he has this material modes in him, he has to understand this material form is nothing but it is connected to the Lord, and nothing but it's coming from the Lord. Lord is the cause, and nothing is separate from him. You're able to understand. That much, if you are able to understand, that's good enough, dear devotees. And all this is nothing but imagination of a yogi. Okay. Whatever we are seeing in terms of description is for him to purify himself. Nothing more than that. Okay. So this way, from 31 to 34, it is talking about that only. But let me go over those just subtle things, and then we will move on to our final words for today. So, as I told you, so there's also a chart which talks about this Adhyatma, Adibhuta, and Adidaiva when it comes to the 10th chapter. So see, there is a gross organ, there is a subtle organ, there is a sense devata, and then there is a sense object. Okay, whether the living entities or the universal form, there is a gross form, there is a subtle form and subtle organ. There is a sense devata which controls that sense organ, and then there is a sense object. This is the pattern with which we are going, dear devotees. So the first one, say for example, there is a gross organ called karana or ears, and the subtle organ which aids hearing is called shotra, and the sense devata who is responsible for that is the dig devatas, through which one experiences the sound of the object or shabda. If the similarly, Nasika is the gross nose, Grahana is the subtle nose, and Yashvini Kumaras are those that are responsible for us to hear, responsible for hearing. Like that, we have Akshini, which is the gross organ, and Chakshusha is the subtle organ. Sense devata for that is Surya, and through the sense object is Rupa. Like then we have Talu, which is the gross organ, and Jihva is the subtle organ, and Varuna is the sense devata, and rasa is the sense object connected to it. And then we have finally karma, which is the gross organ, tvacha is the subtle organ, and the sense devata is the trees, and sense object is sparsha. So the point is, through this, the what do you call it? I mean, there is this Adibhuta, Adhyatma, and Adideva that we spoke about, right? So one experiences the sense perception means they have to have all the three layers functioning. All the three layers, that is the gross, the subtle, the sense devata, they have to cooperate so that he gets the perception of rupa, so that he gets the perception of shabda, so that he gets the perception of gandha, that is the smell, or rasa, or sparsha. For anything, these three have to work. I mean, then only he'd be able to perceive. So this is the point that is also talked about in the purports, to say that for anything to for a person to experience or have the sense perception, these three layers should be functioning. What are the three layers? We spoke about gross organ, subtle organ, sense devata, right? These are nothing but Adibhuta, Adhyatma, and Adideva. So these three have to function or cooperate in order for us to perceive that form, that rupa or gandha or sparsha or rasa or everything. So this has to be taken care of. And then, so yama is his front teeth. Affection is the two rows of the teeth. His smile is maya, which illusions all men. His glance is nothing but insurmountable samsara. So this is the point that is being talked about in the 31st verse. And then 32nd verse talks about shyness is his upper lip, greed is his lower lip, dharma is his chest, and Brahma is his penis, and Mitra and Varuna are his testicles, and the oceans are his abdomen, and mountains are his bones. Like that is being spoken about. Okay. And then 33rd verse says, the best of kings, the rivers are the veins of the universal form of the Lord. The trees are his bodily hairs. The wind with the prowess of Anantasesh is his breathing. The movement of time is his walking. The movement of the living beings, birth after birth, is his play. So the Virat Roop meditating yogi should imagine this kind of meditation of the Virat Roop. This is what is bona fide. He can't imagine some random things, and then this has to be in line with Shastra. Then only he will be able to get his chitta purified. If he is worshipping something else, which he is imagining himself, that process is not going to work, dear devotees. Okay. So very important thing is, this yogi has to follow that which is given in Shastra, so that he can attain purification, and he cannot concoct or meditate on his imagine whatever he is thinking. Oh, let me imagine like this. No, that is not going to work. And then the verse for today talks about the point that the clouds are his hair, twilight is his clothing, and avyakta prakriti is his intelligence, the moon is his mind, the shelter of all change. Like that. So what he's now thinking is, see, everything he is the cause. Krishna is the cause. Like he's able to relate that, oh yeah, we have the moon, and the moon is nothing. Moon is his mind, and this is nothing but it's the light, and through which we've learned in Bhagavad Gita also what the function of the moon is, where it gives nutrients to the food and everything, and it is his mind of the Virat Roop, and that's how he starts to imagine. This twilight is his clothing, and clouds are his hair. So like that, he starts to, obviously we are not going in detail as to what this relates to a yogi, how he sees the dependence on the Lord. That is not explained here, dear devotees. You may have the question, okay, how he is able to relate this to the Lord? That is not being brought about in any of the commentaries or the purports. Hope you are able to understand the point. All we are trying to see is just what this yogi imagines and how he is imagining, how he is doing the meditation. But we are not going in depth into the process to understand how he is exactly doing that. That is not being spoken about. But Prabhupada mentions there is a dependence on each of this each of his limbs to the dependence on the Lord, and he also has to have the service attitude. Otherwise, this process is not going to work. But the important, I mean, at least one concept we learn is there is gross organ, there is sense organ, sense devata, and because of which a perception happens in the form of, it could be Gandha, Sparsha, Rupa, all that. The perception happens because of those three. If that three are not going to work in tandem, then it's not going to, that perception will not happen. If one opposes, even if one opposes, then that would be a problem. If, say, for example, sense devata does not allow us to, he is not granting permission to see, we will not be able to see. Right? So this is the point, another point that we can understand from the book. Okay. So with this, I think you should be okay. I mean, obviously this is technical, not all the technical details are also included in the purports. So whatever we can understand to the best of our ability, we'll try to understand and move on. But we have to understand the central theme. Why we are reading this? It isn't just because Parikshit Maharaj has the curiosity. It's not that he wants to follow this process, right, of yogi, but he wants to ensure there is superiority of bhakti is being shown. He wants to prove that all other processes are inferior to bhakti, and without bhakti, nothing is going to work. This point, Parikshit wants to, Sukadev Goswami wants to help us understand. So when Parikshit is even asking this question, of course, he's a servant of the pure devotee, that is Sukadev Goswami. So he's not going to go after other processes. But for us to understand the importance of bhakti, we are being taught about other processes. And without bhakti, nothing is going to work. Like that, we would understand. And then we'll also understand bhakti is superior to all other processes, be it karma, jnana, or yoga. Okay, dear devotees. So with this, we will conclude today's session. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to all of you, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our acharyas. Hare Krishna, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, thank you so much. We really like this session because you just summarize what we have done throughout the week, and then it brings us into perspective, because individually we've done separate verses, but today we saw the whole Virat Rupa. So thank you for putting it in perspective. Mataji, I have a few questions, but is there any questions from the group? Okay, in the interest of time, Mataji, I can ask my question till other devotees are thinking of any other questions or clarifications. I just want your guidance if I've understood this properly, that the yogi or the materialistic, when he imagines all that, then he's lording it over. So it's not done out of devotion, but it's done, but there is a chance of him lording it over. So I just want a little bit of clarification on that.
So Prabhupada mentions that this person, this yogi, when he does this meditation, what he would understand is that the Lord is the possessor of the material energy, the material creation. So this way, he will not understand. He will come to a conclusion that, yeah, I am not the possessor of this. If I think I'm wanting this building, no, it's the Lord's creation. It's not mine. So he would understand that everything is the material creation. Everything is there. It's all Lord's. Lord is the possessor of it, and that he will slowly get over the mentality that I am possessing it. I am the possessor. So he will be purified slowly to say that I am the possessor. As that mentality will go away, and he will see everything in relation to the Lord, and he would understand that he is the possessor. And with the service attitude, he kind of looks at the connection Lord has with material creation and understands that everything belongs to him, and he's the cause and he's the possessor of it. So this nature,
so it's not
the initial nature.
Yogi is not going to be lording it over.
No, the yogi, as he gets purified, as he gets purified, he will slowly get over that mentality. Initially, he may be having that feeling, yes, I'm possessing everything. But slowly, through this process, he will purify his heart, which is what Srila Prabhupada brings about in the purport.
Thank you very much for that big clarification. And then in my thinking, I feel that I may be wrong, that the Virat Swarup will be different in the different universes. For example, the Virat Swarup of our universe, which is headed by the four-headed Brahma. But there are other cosmic creation where the Brahma is 100 heads or 1,000 heads or 10 heads. So will the I feel the Virat Swarup is dynamic and it will have more in other universes.
Mataji, the point at least that's been clarified in the purports are that we have multiple Brahmandas and there will be Virat Roop for each of the Brahmandas, and there will be Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma for all of them. But the point is, if Brahma is located in, say, a particular part of the limb of Virat Roop, that conception will remain the same. Okay, it will not change. Say Indra, it will not change. Swarga, it will not change. Maharloka, it will not change. That conception will remain the same.
Okay.
You know, as far as the limbs of the Virat Roop goes, this is the conception that Shastra says. So that conception is not going to change for Brahmanda to Brahmanda. No. But how or what form that form of Brahma, that is not explained here. We are not going into depth to understand, oh, how does Brahma look in this Brahmanda versus that Brahmanda, you know, how does, but the point that we are understanding is in each and every Brahmanda, the Virat Roop, the form of the Virat Roop that the yogi imagines is going to be the same. That we understand.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Okay, we've exhausted our time, but are there any questions or comments? Lakshmi Mataji had put in the chat to answer your first question that to imagine is speculative.
So for imagining, Mataji, that concept should be there. For imagining, that concept has to be there. That's the point I was clarifying. If the concept is not there, then we cannot imagine. Okay? That much you have to understand. The concept must be there for us to imagine. Of course, remembrance means some impression. Yes, there must be some smriti, experience of it, so that we could remember. But imagination is, the concept has to be there for us to imagine. Otherwise, we cannot imagine. Okay, that's the only clarification I will say. Are you getting the point, Lakshmi Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Perfect.
Yes, Mataji, got it. Yeah. So for imagining, at least something should be there, right?
Okay.
So I heard. Yes, please.
The concept should be there. You should hear from somebody about the concept. You don't have to necessarily have an experience of it. But somebody tells you, okay, Rasagula is like gulab jamun. Then you get a concept. Oh, it's white in color. Like that, you are now imagining because that person is saying.
Okay, got it. Yes, Mataji. Sure. Thank you so much, Mataji. Wonderful session. Because second canto, I read only once, but it is like I feel it is dry, like our sixth chapter in Bhagavad Gita. But there are so many things to relish when it's compared to Bhakti Yoga. And you gave a holistic view of this first chapter from the beginning of what we have to understand, and especially the holistic view from Srimad Bhagavatam. Because I always have this question: why we have to learn all this? We can directly go to Krishna pastimes or importance about Bhakti Yoga, Nama Sankirtanam, right? Because he is counting his days and it is not required. But you also covered that answer as part of the end of your session. Like why Parishik Maharaj wants to know this and how we are blessed to go
in last class in detail. You hear, I know you didn't come last class, but I spoke about it in detail in last class, Mataji. Today I just
I didn't get time. I will listen. It is in my to-do list, Mataji. I will do it, Mataji.
Sure. You definitely go through last class to get the continuation. That will definitely help.
Sure, Mataji. Wonderful session, and thanks always for giving the holistic view. Hare Krishna.
Sure.
All glories to Srila. As you are here, it is easy, Mataji. When I read, I am reading individually on my own, one verse a day, just for reading practice. But that time it's so reading with satsang and discussing through a mentor like you, it really makes it's a very totally varying experience, and it's so wonderful. Thank you, Mataji.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much. Yes, we all share the same sentiment, Mataji. Thank you so much for today's class. Let us all unmute and thank Mataji for availing herself on this auspicious days of Kali Chaudas and tomorrow being Diwali. But still she did not refuse and said that I will come and give us a session. We'll have a session tomorrow as well. But Monday, Tuesday, we will not have a session because there are functions at the temple.
Wow.
But tomorrow is Diwali, but we are still going to continue. So
Just a small request from my side, Mataji. Kritika Mataji's mother-in-law is not well and she's been admitted in the ICU. So let's pray for her just as an offering. So we'll all chant Hare Krishna for Mataji to get well and recover from her ICU and be able to do devotional service. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो नमः.
Thank you, Mataji.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grace Radhika Kasturi Mataji ki
All
jai.
glories to all devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees. Happy Diwali, everyone. And wish you the best, Mataji.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for all your prayers and thank you for all the kind words. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
See you next
Thank
week.
you,
Hare
Mataji. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you,
See you
Prabhu.
on Saturday. Hare Krishna. Happy Diwali to everybody. Hare Krishna.
Happy Diwali, Hare Krishna.